Polls open in Uganda amid crackdown, fears of violence, and an internet blackout. On January 15, 2026, Uganda held its presidential and parliamentary elections in an intensely tense political climate marked by heavy security, widespread logistical problems, and a controversial nationwide internet blackout imposed by the government. A highly charged political atmosphere. President Yoweri Museveni, 81, who has ruled Uganda since 1986, is seeking a seventh term in office in elections that many critics and international observers say have been marred by repression and restrictions on fundamental freedoms. Museveni's principal challenger, former pop star Bobi Wine, has galvanized a significant following, especially among younger Ugandans, with promises of sweeping reforms and anti-corruption measures. Wine supporters and campaign activities, however, have faced repeated disruption by security forces during the campaign period. Internet blackout and communication clampdown. In the days leading up to the vote, the Uganda Communications Commission ordered a near-total suspension of public internet access nationwide, blocking social media, messaging platforms, web browsing, and many online services. The government defended the blackout as a necessary measure to prevent misinformation, electoral fraud, and incitement of violence. The shutdown drew widespread condemnation. United Nations human rights officials and international rights groups described it as deeply worrying and a serious barrier to transparency in the electoral process. Critics say the blackout severely limits citizens' ability to communicate, share information, and document irregularities, factors that are essential for credible elections. Security forces and restrictions. Uganda's streets were dominated by a large security presence on Election Day, with soldiers and police deployed to deter unrest. Hundreds of activists and opposition supporters were reportedly detained in the run-up to voting, and several civic groups, including media watchdogs and rights organizations, were ordered to cease operations. Human rights advocates, such as Amnesty International, have condemned security operations against opposition rallies and protests, characterizing the environment as a campaign of repression aimed at silencing dissent. Voting day delays and irregularities. On Election Day, many polling stations reported significant delays in opening due to logistical issues. Biometric voter identification machines, crucial for verifying voter identities, reportedly malfunctioned in many locations, with some blaming the internet blackout for these technical problems. Voters expressed frustration as they waited to cast ballots, and some observers, including opposition officials, claimed that the delays could depress turnout or be used to manipulate results. Official vote counting and opposition response. Polls officially closed later in the day, with vote counting beginning under heavy scrutiny. Opposition figures, including Bobi Wine, accused authorities of facilitating a predetermined outcome by operating in the dark and undermining transparency. International media agencies and independent monitors noted the lack of widespread violence on Election Day itself, though concerns remain about potential unrest if results appear heavily skewed. Broader implications and international reaction. Uganda's election has been described by analysts as a crucial test of the country's democratic processes after nearly 4 decades under Museveni. The internet blackout and restrictions on political liberties have drawn sharp criticism from human rights groups and observers who argue that limiting access to communication technologies at such a critical moment undermines electoral integrity. The outcome, expected to be announced within 48 hours of polling closure, will likely shape Uganda's political trajectory amid deepening tensions between demands for reform and entrenched power.